This is ThriveCasters.
Thriving, not surviving.
Tackling youth issues that matter to you.
Welcome to this week's episode of ThriveCaster, where we'll be discussing opportunities in lockdown. Your hosts today are Ashlee Elizabeth Lolo, Hannah Galloway, and Waseelah Smedley. We are joined by Martin Lorimer from the Birmingham Career Service. And yeah, it'd be good to hear a little bit about everything you do, Martin, and your work with Birmingham Career Service when you're ready.
Okay then, right. I'm Martin. I work for Birmingham Career Service, which is part of Birmingham City Council. Our remit is to provide impartial careers information, advice and guidance to neat young people across Birmingham between the ages of 16 and 19 normally. We do go up to 25 if a young person has got an education and healthcare plan or has been previously statemented. We also do some work in schools, so we work with youngsters as young as year 9. My background, very, very quickly, is I've worked for what was Connections and now Birmingham Career Service for almost 20 years. Prior to that, I worked for 5 years at Queen Alexandra College, special education, and that was as their work placement coordinator. So they're a national college, so I was going all over the country setting up work placements. And prior to that, I did 20 years working for DWP. Towards the end of my time, it was as disability employment advisor. So a lot of my background around learning difficulties, learning disabilities is around visual impairment and autism. I've got an autistic son who's out at work at the moment, so I'm actually using his bedroom as my office today. But my other role, as well as working with neat young people, I work with the youth offending team. And perhaps the biggest part of my role is to work with training providers across the city. Prior to lockdown, we were working with 40 training providers offering a wide range of vocational courses to young people, from motor vehicle to music production, from construction to childcare. Now at the moment, we're working with less than 20. And the 20 that we're working with, the details are actually on the Birmingham Career Service website. And of those, most of them are offering a mixture of things. They're offering online courses for those that can offer online courses, and they're also offering recruitment process.
Wow,
that
is a fantastic.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's brilliant. As we all know, today our topic is opportunities in lockdown. And due to the COVID-19 outbreak, experts have predicted there's going to be an increase of unemployment, with under 25-year-olds being the most affected. Resolution Foundation has also estimated that youth unemployment in the UK could now skyrocket by an additional 640,000 by the end of the year. So we want to find out how young people can be in the best possible position after lockdown is lifted, and what opportunities are available in the meantime. So leading on from that, our first question is, where can young people go if they need careers advice while staying at home?
Okay then, right, there's two things. A lot depends on the age, right? As I said before, previously 16 to 19-year-olds can get information from Birmingham Career Service, and on my other computer, you see, I'm really, really technically savvy, not. On my other computer, the best thing to do is to send an email to bccareers@birmingham.gov.uk. Okay, and there's also a text and a WhatsApp number, and the text number is 07864 926 905. That will be picked up by the admin team. And what we've got is we've got careers advisors dotted across Birmingham. I work in the south of the city. Under normal circumstances, we'd invite you into one of our centres. We don't have our own centres anymore. They're all youth centres, but we've got places like the Factory in Bourneville. We've got places like the Vibe, Concord Centre, the Lighthouse at Aston, Erdington Library. Those are the sort of places that we would see, and we would provide one-to-one careers advice to young people. And what we do, and even now, careers advice is really, really important. What frustrates a lot of us is that a lot of young people leave school with little or no careers advice or inappropriate careers advice. careers advice is very much about breaking down what you want to do and why you want to do something. Give you a quick example. I spoke to a young lady last year who came into the office. She had gone to school in year 9. She'd chosen her GCSE options, science-based, because she decided as a young person, without any careers advice, she wanted to become a doctor. Followed the science route, did her A-levels in science-related subjects, was then offered a biomedical science opportunity at Cardiff University, and then all of a sudden decided she didn't want to do science. And that's an absolute waste. And when I asked her, I said, what careers advice did you get? And she said, little or none. I decided I wanted to be a doctor. That was my route. And it turned out that now she wanted to do business management and eventing, which was completely different. So it's really, really important to sit down, talk about what it is that you want to do your research, and take it forward.
Yeah. I think as well, it's really good to chat with someone, because it's really, really hard to like understand what you want to do at such a young age as well, and maybe talking to someone could like maybe make it clearer. Because I remember at school, I'm 24 now, and I remember at school that I know that there was careers advice, but now I'm the age that I'm at now, I kind of wish I would have had more of the one-to-one. Like I'd even consider having like one-to-one careers advice now, because it's like I can see how helpful it would be, because when you can just like bounce ideas off each other, it's definitely a good, and especially an expert in the field as well.
That's a really important point, Hannah. Yeah, I mean, certainly for, as I say, I was talking about 16 to 19-year-olds. Certainly those who are over 19 and perhaps working with the job centre or something like that, excuse me, can get information from the National Careers Service. And they've got a telephone number which is 0800 100 900, and they can offer a similar sort of service. A lot of them are based in job centres, and they can offer a similar sort of service. One of the downsides at the moment is that we're not able to offer the face-to-face service, and that's really, really important, because when we see a young person, sometimes a young person meeting a stranger for the first time won't know where to start and will be apprehensive. We're working a lot of young people who are on the autistic spectrum or mental health problems, and it takes them time to feel relaxed and get to know somebody. So certainly things like this, telephone calls, texting, those sort of things, actually begin to build up a relationship with the person. And it's very much about, I see our role not only as providing careers advice, but very much breaking down the barriers. And like you were saying, Hannah, and like the young person I spoke about earlier on, it's very much a case of, what advice did you have? I mean, I'm many years older. I'm probably nearly 3 times as old as you, Hannah, but not quite. But my careers advice, dare I say it, when I was at school, was, to put it politely, crap. It was a case of, this is what you can't do, you're going into that. And I think sometimes young people that we see, it's very much the barriers. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Let's have a look at, let's unpack it. Let's start right at the very beginning.
I think that's such an excellent point about basically taking all the boundaries off you and just kind of following your dreams. So let's just say that there is young people now that are in lockdown and they've realized that probably there's something that they're quite passionate about. How would you advise them to go about finding work experience whilst being in lockdown? And is that possible?
To be honest, it's very, very difficult at the moment. The biggest problem about work experience is that companies are just beginning to open up. We don't know, so we've got social distancing. We've got so many obstacles at the moment, and it's really, really difficult. Normally, in normal, whatever normal is going to be, in normal circumstances, I would say to a young person, do your research. If somebody comes into me and says, I want to do care, I would say to them, okay, care is huge. Are we talking about adult care, child care? Are we talking about mental health, hospitals, all sorts of, what I'd say to a young person is, do your research, ask yourself the questions, what sort of environment do you want to be working in? Go onto the internet, Google stuff while you can at the moment, find out where the job opportunities are. The other thing that we also find out is that in some areas, I mean, if you look at the city as a whole, there are certain jobs that are more available than others. I mean, there's an awful lot of construction going on across the city. So in theory, there will eventually be more and more construction jobs. But at the moment, going back to your question, work experience is very, very difficult. Work experience very often tends to be for people at school. But one thing that I would suggest, and we'll talk about CVs a little bit later on, one thing that's really, really good on a CV is voluntary work. Look about doing some voluntary work, put some feelers out. We often say it's not just about talking to careers advisors, but use your social media. Young people are really into their social media. Put a message on, if you're into Facebook or WhatsApp or things like that, put a message on there sort of saying, I'm interested in finding out about this particular type of work. Does anybody know an opportunity or anything like that? I mean, in days gone by, we used to have parents taking the kids to work day. I don't think those exist anymore, right? But that sort of thing, but certainly voluntary work, and particularly at the moment when places are beginning to start opening up, charity shops are going to start opening. We often say charity shops are really good for people who want to get into retail.
Yeah.
So it's very much about doing your internet research. As I say, normally we'd be sitting down with a young person and we've been unpacking all this. It's not practical very much to do that at the moment, but certainly do your research, have a look, look at it in its widest sense and then narrow it down.
Yeah, that's really good advice, especially with the voluntary work, because then you can get like a taste of whether you actually enjoy it or not. With regards to like voluntary work, especially during lockdowns, like young people and stuff, I know there's like varying positions that people can be in, depending on their family support, financial support. But where would you tell a young person to go for financial advice and support at the moment during lockdown, if like depending on furlough and all the
A lot depends on the age. Young people usually up to the age of 18 won't be entitled to any benefits normally, right? So if they're over 18, then the best bet would be the job centre, DWP. The other place that I would also, I'll be honest, Hannah, I don't have a benefits background. I worked in the job centre a long, long time ago, but benefits background has changed. And in the career service, we don't do a lot with benefits. But certainly places like the job centre, places like Citizens Advice, and if you're looking for voluntary work, then certainly Birmingham Volunteer Service and places like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah. And then as well, how do you think would be best in terms of networking with employers while staying at home? I know that you just said actually about like getting yourself out there on media, like networking and stuff like that. What do you think some of the best platforms other than media? Do you think like LinkedIn or Indeed, or is there any specific ones that you did?
Certainly LinkedIn, certainly Indeed. I do a lot of work with Job Centre on a program called Youth Obligation, and the Job Centre have revealed that something like 70% of jobs are not actually advertised. A lot of it is by word of mouth. Somebody who knows somebody. That's why when I was talking about sort of things like Facebook and things like that, saying that you're interested in something like that. It's a case of the other thing that employers really, really like is for you to do research on their company. If you're going for an interview, at the end of the interview, very often you're asked, have you got any questions? And if you can sort of show some sort of interest or that you've done some sort of research on the company, then they really, really like that. And again, like their Facebook page, again, do some research, have a look at the companies that are expanding. One of the problems I've got at the moment is that with the training provider work that I do, as I said at the beginning, we were working with 40 training providers. We're now working with less than 20. Now, we don't know how many of those training providers are going to come back. They've been working with employers. A lot of the employers have been furloughed. So really, it's a case of looking on the internet, looking at Indeed, Fish for Jobs, Get My First Job, all sorts of things like that. Just put in looking for a job or a particular type of job and use that as a starting point.
Yeah, I think the fact that 70% of jobs aren't online or aren't advertised.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that LinkedIn can help that with regards to making, like, expanding your network
Yes, certainly things like LinkedIn. One of the things that you have to be careful with the internet, we've been saying this about CVs, is be very, very careful of data protection, right? What you're putting out there can be seen by anybody. Do you really want the whole world to see what you're putting out there? So yeah, be very, very careful. I mean, one of the things that we talk about, going back to things like Facebook, is inappropriate images, inappropriate comments on Facebook. One of the stories that one of my colleagues in the job centre tells is of a young person who went for an interview and was virtually offered the job, then went away on holiday, went abroad, had a very nice time, and there were pictures showing them having a very nice time, but they were inappropriate pictures. Yeah. And the employer then, and this young person was actually going to be a receptionist, so front of face for the company. When the young person got back, the employer turned around and said, "I'm very, very sorry. I'm going to have to withdraw the job offer because that's not the sort of thing that I want." Yeah, so you've got to be very careful and say, yeah, anything that you're sharing on the internet, over the internet, same with CVs, and I'll talk a bit about more CVs towards the end, but anything like that, be very, very careful. And the other thing is that, you know, if you're tagged into stuff, again, be very, very careful what you're tagged into. There's all sorts of stuff going on around Black Lives Matter, which is really, really important. But again, yeah, be careful what you're saying, what your opinions are.
Do you think that a lot of majority of employers do look at Facebook? And
I think a lot more employers are beginning to use that as a tool, and it doesn't matter what your settings are and things like that. They're looking at new ways, and sadly, they will almost look at every way not to employ somebody. If they've got something they really, really want, then they will fall over themselves to sort of chase that person. But if they have somebody they're not sure about, then sometimes, you know, it's a bit like cherry picking, if I'm honest, Hannah. And there are employers out there that will cherry pick.
Yeah. What do you think the best way is to present yourself over social media that looks good to employers?
It needs to be positive. Right, you need to be upbeat about yourself. It's very, very difficult to sell yourself. I mean, if we were all to sit here and say what's our best feature, or if I would say to you, sell yourself to me or something like that, it's very, very difficult. And it's very much about promoting yourself. Think about the things that you do. Think about your hobbies and interests. Think about the voluntary work that you do. With CVs, we talk about the personal profile. I consider that I'm able to do X, Y, Z. And it's really, really important. But again, it's about working with people like the Careers Service and the National Careers Service to get that sort of support. How can we help promote you? How can we best prepare you for an interview? And that's really what we're doing. It's about giving you interview advice as well.
Definitely. Over to you, Ashlee, with other opportunities and how.
Is that okay, Hannah? Does that answer your question?
Definitely, yeah. 100%. I think I didn't even really think about how Facebook and all that kind of thing can employers look. I kind of knew that employers did look, but I didn't know how frequent it was. And then I guess as well it's niche, because say if you're going into the arts or something, they might look for maybe a quirkier look, or
that's right, that's right,
and then the same with say, because I did a psychology degree and a psychology master's, and I've personally found it's been so hard to find paid work. So I'm still struggling now. I think a lot of people out there that do psychology will realise how difficult it is to find anything after, unless you just want to be a support worker, which is
that's an interesting point. I mean, it goes back to the careers guidance thing, and if you're looking at somebody going to university to do a degree course, right, bearing in mind that degree courses are usually a minimum of 3 years, possibly up to 5 years, what I'd say to a young person prior to starting the degree course is, what is the current jobs market like? Is that jobs market going to improve or decline over the next 3 to 5 years? How easy is it going to be when you've got your degree to get a job in the area of work that you want to do? I mean, years ago, we had a lot of young people interested in media, and media degrees were coming out like I don't know what, and it was so difficult at the end of people's courses. Again, companies could cherry pick, and they could pick the people with sort of first class honours degrees and things like that. So it's very, very difficult. But a little bit of advice to you, Hannah. I mean, if you want, I mean, I'm quite happy to have a look at your CV. If you want to, I'll make sure that you've got my email address, my work's email address. Have a look at your CV, but also have a think about what it is that you really want to do, and possibly contact the National Careers Service and try and get an appointment with them and actually sit down with them and sort of unpick what it is that you really want to do. If I said to you, what do you want to be doing in 3 years' time, 5 years' time? That's the sort of thing to think about. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really helpful.
That's okay. That's fine. Yeah.
I think there's so many points that have kind of like burst out of that. And I think the first question I probably have is, I know that a lot of employers do look online and they do kind of scroll through social media to see what's really going on underneath the surface. But I think especially in these times, I have never seen so many young people take to political ideologies, take to actually talking and speaking up about their opinions and their voice. So I think it's kind of showing young people in a positive light as well, because it's almost like we will stand for something. So are employers looking at that and actually searching through and trying to find people that are talking about really important issues, and potentially that could be an asset to their company one day? Is that something
they certainly would? As say, you have to, like I said earlier on, you have to be very, very careful how you express your opinions, and I think it's really, really important. I mean, we've seen a lot of the sort of the newscasts and things like that, and it's really, really difficult at the moment. But certainly, people who are projecting themselves, people who are prepared to stand up, but make sure that you can back up what you stand. Why are you standing up for what you're standing up for, right? Make sure that you can back it up. You're not just being part of the crowd. You've actually got something to say and something that you want to develop. I mean, prime example is Marcus Rashford. Right, today. I mean, what he's done is absolutely incredible. Here is a young man, when you listen to his story, it's a real eye-opener. From sort of having to go round to friends' houses for a meal to make sure he got a meal, being taken on by Manchester United a year early, becoming a professional, and actually getting the government to change. And that, to me, is a really, really positive role model. And those are the sort of things I would be saying to young people. Look at the positive role models. We have a lot of negative role models, but look at the positive role models as well, and aspire to that sort of thing.
And if you, for example, are a young person and you now realise you've got this flair for for a different topic you probably never ever dreamed of. Yeah. Is there any training, like online platforms, that you'd recommend people go to enhance their skills whilst they're in lockdown?
That's a really, really difficult one, Ashlee. There are lots of, I mean, it depends how you want to develop that skill and where you want to take it. And I suppose it goes back to the original thing around careers advice. What are you going to use that for? How do you see, if you're passionate about speaking, right? How do you see, would you be good, perhaps in the art field or something like that, right? Online courses, you have to be very, very careful of online courses at the moment. We're working with training providers who are offering free online courses. I mean, there's one that we work with who offers online courses connected to hairdressing and barbering, right? But you have to be very, very careful, because there are a lot of online courses that start to sneak in costs. They might sign you up for the start of the course. I mean, Open University are doing a lot of really good free short courses at the moment on a whole range of things, but online courses, be very, very careful what you get sucked into. Again, it's about doing your research, having a look and seeing do your research about the company that's offering the course. Have a look at the ratings of the company, have a look at the feedback that people are making. Oh yes, I signed up for this company, and I spoke to somebody twice, but now I can't get hold of anybody. So be very, very careful. If you've got a flair or a passion, think about how you're going to use that. How are you going to take that forward into your life? I mean, going back to Marcus Rashford, I mean, he's very lucky in the position that he's in at the moment. But maybe when he finishes football, then he'll become a politician, or he might sort of head up some charity or something like that. And that's the sort of thing those are the sort of things. And there are some really, really positive role models. There are some negative role models as well. But look at the positive role models. Look at, if you're looking at a particular platform, where do you want to go? How do you want to use that? Make sure that you can use it, because it's really, really important. As you were saying earlier on, Ashlee, unemployment figures are going to rise and are rising. We've got, I think the unemployment figures have more than doubled. People claiming on universal credits at the moment. Some companies, a lot of retail companies, hospitality companies are already closing. Airline companies, holiday companies, they've closed. So where are those people going to come? And it's so difficult. I mean, I've been having a discussion at home about homeschooling and the problems with homeschooling. And if you've got a young person who's not really interested, you can't force them. But then, what's going to happen if they're in sort of year 10 or 11 now? What's going to happen next year and the year after? It's going to be very, very difficult. But if you've got a passion, do your research, find out how you can use that passion.
With regards to, like, I know how you just said about airlines being closed and stuff like that. What would you advise to, like, say, young people that it's their passion to maybe go and work abroad, or find work experience abroad and live abroad for like 6 months, a year, or whatever? Like, given, I know obviously you can't predict exactly what's going to happen, but say if over the next 12 months they really wanted to work abroad, whether that be like teach English or get experience abroad, or like loads of different things, what would you say?
Again, there's a couple of things here. One is that I'd think about possibly going to college and doing something like travel and tourism or childcare. I mean, what we don't know at this stage, Hannah, is we don't know how many of the airline companies and the holiday companies are going to come back. Right? So it's very, very difficult. I mean, like I was saying about sort of with careers advice, make sure that as much as you can, and it's a very, very difficult time at the moment, make sure as much as you can there's going to be a job at the end of the course. Right, and look at. I mean, there used to be American summer camps and things like that, and quite a lot of young people used to do that. Look at the possibilities. And at this stage, I mean, what I think we may have to do is we may have to put that on the back burner for 12 months and say to people, it's not going to be a possibility this year, but maybe in 12 months' time. So look at what you can perhaps do this year, perhaps September, October time. Look at the college courses, the training courses that are available to you now that are going to give you a range of skills and help with your CV, and you can actually gain those skills and take those. You've had an extra year to gain those skills and take those skills with you when you go abroad.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Say somebody had finished their degree and then they say if they're like 21, 22, and then they wanted to say if they'd been offered a position abroad, whether that be teaching English or like an internship abroad or something that's related to their degree. Say if that had been then cancelled, would you then say, "I'll look for other positions abroad now," or maybe postpone it for 6 months until things have calmed down with airlines and everything like that?
I think I would be personally, and I say I have to be very, very careful because my job is to provide impartial careers advice and guidance, and you have to be very careful about sort of offering personal things. But certainly, because we're in a very unknown situation, my suggestion would be to, particularly if the job opportunity has disappeared or it's on hold, would be to hang fire. But look around, just sort of see, if it's an opportunity that can be suspended for 6 months, 12 months, then have a look and see what's around at the moment. And in 6 and 12 months' time, hopefully we're going to know what's available. I'd never completely discount it because, if you've got that opportunity. But, most companies, if they're worth their salt, then most companies will say, come back to us in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, and the job will still be there.
Yes, basically don't rush into it.
No, don't rush into it. Take your time. And be very, very careful about companies who say, "Oh, I need a decision now." Because again, when companies put you on the spot and want a decision now. It's a bit like going and buying a car. You go into the garage and buy a car, and they're offering all sorts of things like this. But actually, if you walked away and came back the next day, you might actually get a better deal. Be very, very careful about it and make sure that you've got all the information up front.
That's such a good point. That don't. If you feel rushed into something or pressured into something, that's probably a good indication it's maybe not.
Yeah.
I've got a question around like the self-employed community, because I think there's quite a lot of the 16 to 25-year-old market that are branching out into their own route and want to be their own boss. But in this time, like, how do you maintain a portfolio career when, all those opportunities are kind of, like you said, starting to die down? Maybe some of them were abroad and you can't access them anymore.
Yeah.
How do you arrive without a contract?
So self-employment is a strange one, because you have to be, if you're looking to go into self-employment in the first place, you need to make sure that you've done your research, you've got a proper business plan. Places like Barclays and Prince's Trust do really, really good sort of business startup programs, things like that. Make sure that you've got the advice, and have a look at your business. How is the business that you've started going to be affected by the current situation? Is it actually going to be a goer? Is it something that you've been able to carry on doing? For example, if you look at hairdressing as an example, right? Hairdressing, lots of people now, in fact, hairdressing is probably quite a good one, because lots of people are going to need their hair done or styled or cut or whatever it is, because they're absolutely sort of frustrated about not being able to have it done. And so, that's a really good one. IT is another one. IT is a booming thing. When I think back to when I was at school, and as I said to Hannah earlier on, it was a long, long time ago. I think I worked out that it was nearly 50 years ago, but we'll gloss over that. But seriously, IT wasn't around when I was starting. There are lots of IT companies setting up, offering advice. Steer clear of the ones offering CVs, otherwise you'll put me out of a job. But no, seriously. Be very, very careful, and it's very much about what have you been doing during the coronavirus? Have you actually been sitting back doing nothing, or have you still been in touch with your customers? Look at your advertising. How are you advertising your company? Again, is it something that you can take forward? It might be, again, a case of going back to your bank or the Prince's Trust or people like that and sort of saying, well, this isn't working. People need advice. It's not just people who are going into employment. Everybody needs careers advice somewhere on the line. So look at your business plan, look at your projections. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? What are the opportunities? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does actually. And it's quite interesting what you just said about, because I think it's quite interesting, because if you look back probably about maybe 8 years ago, certain jobs that were, around today were not around then. So from this period that we're in, do you think there's going to be any sort of industries that will emerge out of this that are brand new, or different career paths that we probably haven't heard of just yet, but you can see it kind of forming bit by bit?
Oh, blimey, that's $100. That's difficult. It's very, very difficult, because to be honest, Ashlee, I don't think I know, because I think a lot of us don't know what the future holds. Certainly IT will take off and will continue to take off. We've got a lot of things around digital marketing, lots around cybersecurity, a lot around these things that fly up in the air, and I'm an old man, I've forgotten what they're called now. Those sort of things. There are going to be the industries that will stay with us. People will still want their hair cut. There are people who will still want childcare, teaching. That's going to need a whole new revamp. I would like to think that somebody somewhere along the line will actually realise the amount of work that those in the health service and the care industry do, and actually start paying them a decent wage for what they do. And maybe that will start attracting more people in. I think more people want to get back to work, so it's going to probably offer childcare opportunities. Excuse me. And the other two are, we may not have had our cars on the road for a while, but perhaps they need looking at. So we're going to need mechanics. And of course, you look around Birmingham in any major city, what do you see? Construction. Construction, they're talking about HS2. That's going to be a long time in the process. Lots of building going up, so all sorts of things like that. But as to whether there'll be anything new, I don't know. I don't think there'll be too many jobs for chimney sweeps and things like that at the moment. But we'll see. We'll see.
I think that's a really good point in terms of like paying attention to what is needed at the moment, and I guess being like slightly savvy in terms of thinking, well, what is needed and what can I also enjoy, and what fits into my values. A big one that, say if you've got a few different things that do really interest you,
mm-hmm.
You can't quite make up your mind, you can't quite decide which is for you, and then if you can't decide, it's difficult to then commit to one course. If you had somebody like a young person that was dealing with that and they honestly just couldn't decide, and then committing to a course was going to be obviously difficult if they couldn't decide, what would you then advise them to do?
Again, it's very much a case of sitting down with them, unpacking everything, right? You've got 2 or 3 different things that you're interested in. Think about the job now. Think about the job in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. What do you want to be doing? What do you want to achieve by the time you come up to retirement age, right? There's nothing worse, and I did it for 5 years. I went into a job that I was persuaded to go into, and every day was the worst day of my life. The only thing that I got out of it was actually 2 nationally recognised qualifications. And now I really enjoy what I do. I've put my whole heart into it and everything like that. But certainly, if you've got 2 or 3 choices, why have you got the choices? What made you think about this choice or that choice? I mean, teaching perhaps is quite an interesting one, or care, childcare. I mean, I've often had young people come to me and say, I want to do teaching, but I don't have the qualifications. Or I want to do nursing, but I don't have the qualifications. So I've said to people, well, look at childcare, look at a classroom assistant, look at a nursery nurse, use that as your starting point. And now the other thing that we're beginning to get a lot of is degree apprenticeships. And the great thing about degree apprenticeships is that you can do your degree over the same amount of time that you would do. You're still doing your qualification, but you're actually doing the work, at the time, like degree nursing as example. You're actually there in a hospital. You're actually working there and getting your degree at the same time, so that when you've qualified, you're actually already in a job. And those are the sort of things to think about. Teaching and the police force are 2 that are also. I mean, police force is an interesting one, because that's looking at degree opportunities, and you come out with your degree, and hopefully you're in a job that you really enjoy. But it's very much about, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? Where do you see yourself going?
Yeah. Do you think that like, say if it's been a long period of time where you just honestly can't decide, do you think having that conversation and talking to a careers advisor could be like the defining point that really helps you begin to decide? Because I know a lot of people actually that like want to do several different things, but they can't. Like they're scared of committing to one thing and then regretting it. But I think you're basically highlighting how important it is to actually talk to a careers advisor, because before I guess I knew it was out there, careers advice and stuff, but I didn't realise how much it probably could actually help.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, because you can have lots and lots of choices, and sometimes actually when you actually sit down and look at them, there may be a reason why you can't actually see that choice through. I mean, I'll give you an example, a personal example. One of the jobs that I wanted to do when I first left school is I wanted to go into the military, but I couldn't because and I'd set my heart on going into the military, and I couldn't because of a health problem, and that really, really gutted me. And for a long, long time, I just couldn't get over that. But now the jobs that I've done, right from my very, very first job, have had a common theme. I've worked in, my first job was in retail. Then I worked for, I was a special constable for a short period of time, two periods. I worked for DWP in a variety of different roles, including frontline finance officer, fraud officer, disability employment advisor, office manager. Then I went into special education, teaching and health and safety, and then into my current job. But they've all had a common theme running through them, and that's working with people and helping people. And that's the most important thing. But going back to what you're saying, Hannah, it's really, really important to sit down with somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be a careers advisor if you can't get that. Sit down with a family member or a really, really trusted friend and really unpick why it is what you want to do, and whether, there's nothing worse than going into a job and sort of thinking, I really want to be a nurse, and then finding you can't stand the sight of blood or sort of bodily fluids. Yeah, and that sort of thing. And you've got to face up to a lot of the facts about the jobs, unpick them, and find out what it is, why you want to do the job.
Brilliant, thanks so much. I have to jump onto the other podcast now because I've got to introduce the other people. But I'll definitely get your email and email you. It's been great speaking to you.
Lovely. Cheers, Hannah. Thank you ever so much. Thanks. Bye now. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you for coming on today, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Right.
I think you've just a wealth of knowledge and you just know so much. So I suppose my last question is, I mean, with all the knowledge that you have and all the years of experience that you have, what are the 3 main points that you'd like some of our listeners to take away from today? Because there's so much that you have, and it's just like, wow, what are the nuggets that you'd have them take away?
Right. First thing is, don't rush into anything. Right. Second thing is, make sure that you get advice, right, from a careers advisor, ideally, or somebody that you trust, and use the. I'm going to add a 4th one as well because I can't count, right? I got a grade 5 CSE in maths, I think it was, something like that. But now, third one is, make sure that you do your internet research about a company or an organisation. Don't rush into things. And the 4th one, be careful what you do with social media. Thank you so much, Martin. And while you're on, I'll give you my email address so people can have that. And I'm quite happy for people to email me if you want me to have a look at CVs. We haven't touched on CVs. Just very, very briefly, with CVs, there is no need to put an address on your CV. Don't put your referees down. Again, it goes back to around data protection, right? Make sure that you when you're setting out your CV, you've got your name, an email address, and it needs to be a workable email address. The one that I use when I'm doing talks in the job centre is Little Miss Sexy Hot Legs. Right now, that's a really inappropriate email address. So don't, or your favourite football team or your favourite television. So don't use that. With your mobiles, make sure that you have a really good and positive message on your phone if you're not answering your phone. One that we use again in the job centre, it wasn't me, I wasn't there, you can't pin it on me. Don't know what you're talking about, right? Make sure you've got that. Look at your personal profile on your CV, your skills. I mean, I can send you some more information about this. Your skills, any work experience, any college courses. Make sure that they're all in chronological order. Never big up qualifications. If I've got a grade 5 CSE in maths, I've just done a CSE in maths, right? But I haven't got a sort of a degree qualification in maths, so I'm not going to sell that to you. Those sort of things. Hobbies and interests, really, really important. Think about voluntary work, and with your references, always put references available on request. And then lastly, my email address is Martin, that's MARTIN .Lorimer, LORIMER @birmingham.gov.uk. Thank you, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure. That's all right. My pleasure. I've really, really enjoyed it. If you want me back, if you can't find somebody else to fill the spot, then give me a shout again. All right. Brilliant. And thanks, guys, for listening in today. Don't forget to follow us on OnPointWM and also the hashtag ThriveCasters. Join us next time for conversations that matter to you.
Don't forget to follow us on social media on OnPointWM and hashtag ThriveCasters. Join us next time for more conversations that matter to you.